that people really do not know what's going on. This is one of the reasons we organized the event today, in order to educate our fellow citizens here at the university and beyond, in order to teach about the cultural assimilation and subjugation of First Nations individuals in Canada. We are Idle No More, and we want to know more. We also want others to know more.
I've heard the same message in Idle No More rallies across Canada. It's not just about us. If the earth is gone, you know, if it's destroyed, if the whole of Canada is a oil patch or a mine, you know, we need food to eat, we need fish, we need clean water.
So Idle No More, in my mind and my heart, is not dying away. What is dying away is the media's interest in what we are doing. For Pete's sake, we had Cree youth. We had people from the Inuit, the young ones, walking to Ottawa. They arrived, unfortunately, they arrived in Ottawa at the same time as two pandas from China. So where did the Prime Minister go? He went to welcome the pandas. Shame. I like that. Shame. But those youths stood strong. They stood strong, and even though the Minister Nancy was there, they stood strong. The First Nations, the Aboriginal people in that area stood with them. Apparently there are hundreds of thousands of people there that day, standing at Parliament Hill with them, which I raise my hands up and say hi, and thank all of them for that.
If you haven't, try it. Because when you feel that energy, you know that everything around you is alive. We teach our children that. Everything around you is alive. Everything that you use in your daily activity has had some kind of energy towards it. And I hope that you actually do take your shoes off and feel the earth.
The same thing is happening in Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario. Almost every province across the country has like numbers of Aboriginal First Nations women that are murdered and missing.
First Nations people in the remote areas are experiencing it firsthand because tailing ponds are in their backyards. And before the tailings ponds, they probably didn't have access to clean water anyway. There's always boil water advisories. You see on the news, old ladies carrying slop pails, you know, to do their cooking and to flush their toilets. That's disgusting. That doesn't happen in other communities across Canada. And it's not just Canadian taxpayer dollars. I pay taxes. I have a job. I pay property taxes. I pay, you know, I mean, taxpayer dollars go to provinces, to cities, to municipalities, to schools. Why not to our schools? Why not to our water? Why do we have to live in substandard conditions?
Blind eye to a national inquiry on this issue. Violence against women is everybody's issue. It could be your sister, your mother, your auntie, your cousin, your friend. And the government needs to recognize that Aboriginal women are important and that we do count.
Your government is doing to this country, to the earth, to the animals, to the forest. You need to really, really, really look at what they're doing and stop. If we have no water to drink, then we have no air to breathe, because the trees will stop growing because they won't have that moisture.
In 1763, King George III issued a royal proclamation that recognized Indian ownership of lands and their possessions and reserved to them all unceded land. It was made clear that Indian lands, though, can only be transferred to the Crown, that Aboriginal title is held as collective, and the Crown has a fiduciary responsibility for First Nations. This is where the relationship changed from sovereign nations to a nation of subjugation. The British North American Act was then passed in 1867 that ushered in legislative powers that marked the end of legally presumed First Nations sovereignty. The Indian Act was then created in 1876. It outlined the control control and enforce cultural assimilation that still dominates First Nation people in Canada. I assure you, this act is alive, well, and just as racist as it once was. If this social justice issue does not hit home, I'll leave you with an environmental one. Millions of bison used to roam this land, which were sustenance for millions of First Nations individuals. Their herds were slaughtered in order to leave the First Nations with no food source and no way of life. Systematically slaughtered. If you don't feel there's a need to support First Nations, then support the bison that were destroyed alongside them.
Or the salmon and the herring now.
Support the salmon. Support the environment. Support the people that need the land, because we all need this land. Please try to understand the ties that First Nations have with this land, the rights to the water, the air, the forest, and the non-human animals. All my relations. I don't know more!
Because the policy was to eradicate us from this territory. Like we were fauna. Like we were in the way of progression. Like we did not, we were not a necessity. The treaties that are in place today, you know, were not a land surrender. Those were coerced. First Nations peoples were starved. You know, they were imprisoned. They were hurting when those treaties were signed. They were signed under duress. And today those treaties are still being negotiated under duress. Shame. Shame. My sister here says that those treaties, they really shouldn't be signed anymore. And I agree, because, you know, because that's just a colonial tactic of divide and conquer. And today we're not about divide and conquer, we're about uniting.
Beautiful, powerful words, and those words are from our leaders, our life givers. And those words are so powerful, and they reflect the generations. Their words are so powerful that I can feel those words going down to their grandchildren and their grandchildren. They're talking about not only us and our children, but the generations of the children that are coming, that are going to be unborn. And we want those children to enjoy what we're having. A beautiful, clean place with clean water. And, you know, we want to leave them with paradise, because those are our legacy. Those children are going to be our leaders. And we want to leave our children and our grandchildren and our unborn with what we have, what we're enjoying.